Melly has been behind bars at the Broward County Jail for 3 years now. The 20-year-old rapper is being held on multiple charges over the death of his two close friends, YNW Sack Chaser and YNW Juvie. But in early April 2020, things took a really weird turn for YNW Melly after he tested positive for COVID-19. This event had Melly's legal team scramble to get him released early so he could receive proper medical care. But while doing so, the Broward County Jail also released jail reports of YNW Melly. This report goes into intense detail of what Melly has been doing since he's turned himself back in February 2020, since he's turned himself in February of 2019. Like who is sending him money, who is visiting him, and what his behavior has been like. Trust me, it is not what you think. YNW Melly has made it seem like everything has been all good since being in jail, by releasing music, saying he's coming home soon, and even posting up a picture of his Versace shoes he has in jail. But little did you know that he's been getting into brawls with inmates, making prohibitive phone calls, and even flooding his entire unit on purpose. Still curious on what YNW Melly has gone to while behind bars? Well, then I got you covered. Here is an exclusive of what it's like for YNW Melly in jail. For those who are unaware of why Melly is even in jail, the first place, let me give you a quick rundown. Back in October 2018, Melly's close friend YNW Sack Chaser and YNW Melly Juvie were shot and killed in a drive-by by Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Melly and YNW Portland were in the car with them at the time and drove the two to the hospital, where they told the police what actually happened. The police weren't buying Melly and Portland's story after months of investigating. The police got enough evidence to assume that YNW Melly and Portland staged the drive-by and actually shot Sack Chaser and Portland themselves, and was soon arrested on February 12, 2019, and Melly turned himself in the day later, February 13th. YNW Melly is currently living on the 6th floor of Broward County Jail. He spends his days hanging out with his other inmates, the general population, talking on the phone with friends and family, and visiting with the legal team. Financial statements also show people have been sending money to Melly, and lots of it. Melly has lots of people sending him money with deposits hitting his account monthly. The two most frequent people to send him money and care packages are his mother and his manager. Between February 20th, 2019 and March 2020, YNW Melly has spent over $4,000 on commissionary purchases, and on average spends $100 per week. The items he usually purchases are Oreos, Grandma's cookies, Doritos, pretzels, and honey buns, as well as flaming hot Cheetos, cinnamon rolls, and hot cocoa. It was also reported Melly buys thank you and miss you cards, and pencils and pens as well, paper and reading glasses, headphones, and also playing cards, as well as Spanish to English dictionaries, and ibuprofen for the medicine as well. The way Melly gets these things are filling out a form and checking off each item. Inmates at Broward County Jail on average have about $22 in their account and have an $80 limit on food and over-the-counter medicine, and another $80 on a limit on clothes. So in total, they can only spend $160 per week. Then when YNW Melly isn't going on a shopping spree, he is often in the jail visiting center. Broward County Jail only allows inmates to have an in-person visits with law enforcement, attorneys, and religious ministers. 2019 to 2020, he's had around 170 visits, with most of them being a legal team. Two visits that stood out were prison minister named David Morgenstern, a man that has ties to the trafficking crime family, also known as the Tampa Mafia. The family was apparently a mob operating in Florida and Cuba. David, along with his twin brother, Fred Morgenstern, were members of a trafficking crime network and was largely involved in mom's investment schemes and money laundering and funneling millions of dollars in banks overseas. Two were actually caught and sentenced to 15 years in federal prison. David was released in the year 2015 and started a non-profit organization in 2018. The organization was called Last Word Corporation, where he meets with inmates and discuss different topics revolving around religion. According to DC, Palm David didn't go into details about conversations he's had with YNW Melly, and he encourages everybody in there. The phone call he made violated 3 jail policies, which resulted in Melly having to serve 30 days in solitary confinement, as well as all the privileges being taken away from him. Then 2 months after that, Melly was getting into trouble and threatening and disrespecting an officer. And after that, he was punished with 30 days solitary confinement and loss of all privileges. And a bunch of months later, September 2019, Melly placed a towel in his toilet in his cell and started to flush continually until the top unit and the bottom was all flooded. The deputy who reported the flooding said Melly admitted to flooding the cells on purpose, and he was also threatening him. Melly was quoted on saying, "Yeah, I flooded. Now go get your boss. I'll beat all y'all and have real lawyers to come get me out," he says. The deputy handcuffed Melly soon after, and the whole unit was evacuated. Melly was ordered to serve another 20 days in solitary confinement and lost all of his privileges again. And it added 10 days of probation. The next bit of trouble Melly got into was in the year 2020 in February, when he apparently got into a fight with other prisoners in the cell blocks day room. Multiple deputies had to break up the brawl. And guess what? Melly was charged with 2 more violations. One for fighting another inmate, and the other was a destructive conduct. Melly's charge's first hearing was on February 23rd, 2020. And it turns out he was found guilty and spent 30 days in solitary confinement and lost all of his privileges again. In total, YNW Melly has so far spent 70 days in solitary confinement. As today, YNW Melly is still behind bars as he waits to see when he'll be a free man. In the beginning of April, Melly tested positive for COVID-19, which resulted in his lawyer Bradford Cohen proposing an emergency motion to the judge for Melly to be released from jail and placed in house arrest so he could have proper medical attention. Fans on social media at the time thought Melly could maybe become a free after all, after hearing all of these reports. After seeing the rapper 6ix9ine be released due to the exact same reasons, COVID-19. But on April 14th, the judge denied all the motions. The judge said if Melly needs special medical treatment while in jail, he can just request to the sheriff's office. Melly at the time was sharing a cell with an inmate that tested positive for COVID-19. The question is, will YNW Melly actually get out? Recently, the death penalty is off the table now for him, so maybe that's a really good sign for him. Anyways, there you have it. YNW Melly, life in prison. Let me know what you think about the video. Be sure to subscribe.